My new human cadet called our elite training arena bouncy and then jumped 30 meters straight up. That's when every species in the room realized we were teaching a creature from a Deathworld. Look, I have been teaching combat fundamentals at the Kelthian Orbital Academy for 17 cycles now. 17 cycles of training cadets from 43 different species across the Galactic Cooperative. I have seen Grathians who could crush steel with their mandibles. I have watched Velcor students phase through solid walls. I have even supervised a Thrin who could generate localized electromagnetic pulses from her neural crest. Nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing in my entire career, prepared me for the day that human showed up. Her name was Riley Chen, and she looked like she would snap if you breathed on her too hard. Seriously, when she walked into my training facility on rotation day, half the class thought she was somebody's juvenile offspring who had wandered in by mistake. Thin limbs, minimal body armor, no visible natural weapons, no exoskeleton, no energy fields, nothing, just soft skin, and a confused expression as she looked around our light world training arena with those bizarre forward-facing eyes. I remember thinking, this is going to be a long semester. The Galactic Cooperative had insisted on including Earth in the Academy exchange program, and I had drawn the short assignment crystal. Lucky me, right? Oh, how spectacularly wrong I was about everything. Riley Chen walked into the training arena carrying a single bag, wearing what I later learned humans call a hoodie and sneakers, which apparently pass for acceptable clothing on their world. The other cadets stopped their warm-up exercises and just stared. I heard Krell, one of my Velcor students, make a chittering sound that translated roughly to "Is that thing even sentient?" Charming, really charming. Instructor Vorn, she said, extending her tiny 5-fingered hand toward me in what I recognized from the orientation materials as a handshake. I carefully touched her hand with my primary manipulator claw, terrified I might accidentally sever it. Her grip was firmer than I expected, but still she felt so breakable. "Welcome to Kelthian Combat Academy, Cadet Chen," I said, keeping my voice modulator at the lowest friendly setting. "You are assigned to Training Group 7. We will begin with standard mobility assessments in the Light World Arena." She nodded, looking around the massive dome with obvious curiosity. The Light World Arena was our pride and achievement, a spherical training environment, held at 0.4 standard gravity units. Most species found it refreshingly easy to move in compared to their homeworlds. The Grathians particularly loved it, because they could practice aerial maneuvers without their heavy carapaces weighing them down. For someone from a low-gravity world like Earth, it should have been absolutely comfortable, almost natural. "This feels weird," Riley said, bouncing slightly on her feet. "Super light." "Wait, what? Light?" I checked my data tablet, certain there had been some mistake in the planetary files. "Earth's gravitational constant ... No, that could not be right. That number had to be an error. I would check it later. "Attention, cadets," I called out, my voice echoing through the arena. "Standard orientation protocol. We will begin with basic movement drills, walking, jogging, elevation changes and obstacle navigation. Cadet Chen, as you are new, please observe one demonstration cycle before participating." The other students were already smirking. Vex, a Corthan senior cadet, built like an armored transport vehicle, made a show of stretching his forearms. "Try not to float away, little human," he said, his translator dripping with condescension. Riley just smiled politely and gave him a thumbs up, which apparently means agreement in human gestures. I activated the first drill sequence, completely unaware that in approximately 4 minutes my entire facility would descend into absolute pandemonium. The first drill was simple, laughably simple. Cross the arena floor, navigate 3 low barriers, return to start position. Basic motor function assessment. Every species in the cooperative could do this in their sleep. I watched as Krell completed it in 12 seconds, followed by a Thrin cadet who took 15, standard times. Nothing remarkable. "Cadet Chen, you are up," I announced. Riley stepped to the starting line, rolled her shoulders back and did a little bounce on her toes. Just a tiny hop to loosen up, the kind of movement you do not even think about, except in 0.4 gravity. That tiny hop launched her 3 meters straight up into the air. 3 meters. Vertical. For context, that is higher than I am tall. Time seemed to slow down. Riley's eyes went wide as she rocketed upward, her arms pinwheeling slightly as she tried to understand what was happening. The other cadets froze. I froze. We all just watched this fragile little human soar through the air like she had been fired from a rail cannon. Then Krell screamed, "It is flying. The human has flight capability." No, that is not," I started to say, but then Riley reached the apex of her jump, hung there for a frozen moment that felt like an eternity, and began to descend. That is when the real panic started. "Somebody catch it," Vex bellowed, lumbering forward with his massive arms outstretched. "It is going to splatter." "Medical team to Light World Arena," another cadet shrieked into their comm unit. "We have a catastrophic falling incident." "I am fine," Riley shouted from above. But her voice was drowned out by the emergency klaxons that some genius had activated. The entire arena filled with red warning lights and that horrible pulsing alarm that sounds like a dying Grathian. I watched in horror as 6 different cadets rushed to Riley's projected landing zone, scrambling over each other to form some kind of catch formation. Vex was shoving smaller students out of the way. Krell had extended his energy field to try to slow her descent. A Thrin cadet was literally lying on the ground with all 6 appendages spread wide like some kind of fleshy landing pad. "Move, move, move," I heard someone yelling. "Brace for impact." Riley, meanwhile, was descending at a completely normal, controlled speed. She even adjusted her body position mid-air, twisting slightly to orient her feet downward. When she finally landed, right in the middle of the chaos, she bent her knees and absorbed the impact with such casual ease that it looked choreographed. The catch team, however, had too much momentum. Vex crashed into Krell, who stumbled backward into the Thrin on the ground, creating a domino effect that sent half the class tumbling across the arena floor in a tangle of limbs, carapaces, and dignity. Riley stood in the center of this disaster, completely unharmed, looking around at the flashing lights and screaming students with obvious confusion. She said, her voice small against the blaring alarms. "What just happened?" "What just happened?" I repeated, my voice modulator crackling with stress. You launched yourself into the upper atmosphere of my training facility." "I hopped," she said, demonstrating with another small bounce that sent her 1 meter up this time, which triggered a fresh wave of gasping from the students who had managed to stand back up. "Oh right. Low gravity. Sorry, I forgot to adjust. This is like being on the moon back home. Do you want me to walk slower or something?" "The moon." She compared our advanced training facility to her planet's barren satellite, and she apologized for not adjusting, as if this was a minor inconvenience she should have anticipated. I deactivated the emergency alarms with my override code, and the arena fell into ringing silence. "Cadet Chen," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. "Exactly how strong is the gravity on Earth?" Riley pulled out her personal datapad and pulled up her planet's specifications with a few casual swipes. "Earth's gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared, she said, showing me the screen. "Your arena here is set to, what, about 4 meters per second squared. So yeah, this is like 2.5 times lighter than what I am used to. Makes everything feel bouncy. 2.5 times. 2.5 times stronger than our training facility that was specifically designed to challenge elite combat students from across the galaxy." "That is impossible," Krell said flatly. "No biological organism can develop under those conditions. The bone density requirements alone would be, he trailed off, his translator struggling to find words for the mathematical improbability. "She is lying," Vex grunted, still untangling himself from the pile of cadets. "Humans are a cooperative species. They do not come from high-gravity worlds." I read the briefing. Riley shrugged. "I mean, I can show you the planetary data if you want. Earth is pretty standard for a terrestrial world. We have got 1.0 G, 24-hour rotation, oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, liquid water oceans, nothing special." "Nothing special." She called a gravity well that would crush most species nothing special. I accessed the Galactic database on my own tablet, pulling up Earth's full environmental profile. My primary heart sank as the data loaded. She was not lying. If anything, she was understating it. "Instructor Vorn," one of the other students asked nervously, "your faceplates are turning gray. What does the file say?" I read aloud, my voice barely above a whisper. "Earth, designated Class 4 Deathworld, gravity 1.0 standard. Atmospheric oxygen content 21%. Native megafauna include apex predators massing up to 6,000 kilograms. Tectonic activity extreme. Weather systems extreme. Radiation exposure from parent star, moderate to high. Microbial diversity extreme. Recommended contact protocols extreme caution." The arena went silent. Class 4 Deathworld. There were only 8 Class 4 worlds in the entire known galaxy, and most of them were quarantined research sites. "Oh yeah," Riley said cheerfully, completely oblivious to the horror spreading through the room. "Earth is kind of intense. We have got earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, volcanoes, plus like lions and bears and sharks and stuff, and mosquitoes, but those are more annoying than dangerous. Well, except for the diseases they carry. Malaria, dengue fever, yellow fever, Zika virus." She counted them off on her fingers like she was listing groceries. "How?" Krell's voice was shaking. "How does your species survive?" Riley looked genuinely confused by the question. "We just do. I mean, we build houses and cities and we invented medicine and agriculture. Pretty standard civilization stuff." "Why?" "Why?" She asked why. "Cadet Chen," I said carefully, "you are telling me that you personally have survived on a world with crushing gravity, deadly predators, catastrophic weather events, and plague-carrying insects for your entire life?" "Well, yeah," she said. "I mean, I grew up in California, so no hurricanes, but we get earthquakes pretty regularly. Had a magnitude 6.7 when I was 12. Knocked over my bookshelf. That sucked." She described a seismic event that would have leveled most cooperative settlements as a minor inconvenience involving furniture. I made a command decision right then. "Cadet Chen, I need you to demonstrate your normal movement capabilities, walking pace, standard running speed, basic climbing. But please, for the sake of my cardiovascular system, move carefully." Riley nodded and started walking across the arena floor, except it was not walking. Not really. Each step covered twice the distance it should have, and she moved with this effortless predatory grace that made every other species look clumsy by comparison. Her feet barely seemed to touch the ground before she was already 2 strides ahead. "That is your walking speed?" I asked. "Casual walking." "Yeah," she confirmed. "Want me to jog?" Before I could answer, she took off. And I do not mean jogging. I mean she accelerated like a military interceptor. Her legs pumped in smooth, powerful motions, each stride launching her forward in these long, bounding arcs that ate up distance at a terrifying rate. She crossed the 100-meter arena length in 8 seconds. 8 seconds. The Velcor combat instructor record was 14 seconds. Riley had just shattered it while jogging. She came to a stop, not even breathing hard, and jogged back to us with that same horrifying speed. "How was that?" she asked brightly. Half the class had unconsciously taken 3 steps backward. Vex's combat plates were fully extended in defensive posture. Krell had literally moved behind me for protection. "The climbing wall," I said, my voice coming out slightly strangled. "Show us your climbing capability." The climbing wall was a 15-meter vertical surface with handholds designed to challenge species with specialized gripping appendages. Most cadets took 2 to 3 minutes to reach the top. Riley walked up to it, looked up once to plot her route, and just went. She went up that wall like gravity was a suggestion she chose to ignore. Her fingers found holds that I could barely see. Her feet pushed off with explosive force that sent her rocketing upward. She did not climb, she launched herself from point to point, hanging in the air between grips like some kind of Deathworld spider. 15 meters. 6 seconds. She rang the bell at the top, dropped straight down in a controlled fall that should have shattered her legs, and landed in a crouch that absorbed the impact like it was nothing. Then she stood up, dusted off her hands, and smiled at us. "That was fun," she said. "Your gravity makes everything feel like a playground." A playground. Our elite military training facility was a playground to her. Instructor Vorn, one of the Thrin cadets, whispered, "Permission to transfer to a different class." "Denied," I said automatically, though I was seriously considering joining her. "Cadet Chen, one final demonstration, maximum vertical jump, full power. I need to see what you are actually capable of." Riley's expression turned uncertain. "Are you sure? I do not want to hit the ceiling." "The arena dome is 40 meters high," I said. "I seriously doubt you can reach it." That was a mistake. I should not have said that. I should not have challenged her. Riley bent her knees, lowered her center of gravity, and launched herself upward with every bit of force her Deathworld muscles could generate. She shot up like a missile. 5 meters, 10 meters, 15 meters, 20 meters. The entire class was craning their necks back, mouths hanging open, watching this impossible creature soar higher and higher. She cleared 30 meters before her momentum stopped. 30 meters, vertical, from a standing position. Then she started falling, and I watched her adjust her body mid-air with practiced ease. twisting to orient herself feet first, arms out for balance. She hit the ground and absorbed the impact with a flex of her legs that should have liquefied her joints. Instead, she just straightened up and brushed her hair out of her face. "Sorry," she said. "I probably should have held back more." Held back. She had held back. Vex took another step backward, then another. Then he turned and walked straight out of the arena without a word. 3 other students followed him. I did not stop them. Honestly, I was considering leaving myself. "So," Riley said into the terrified silence, "what is next in the lesson plan?" Vex returned 10 minutes later. I knew that look. I had seen it 1,000 times in overconfident senior cadets who thought they knew everything. Pride, anger, and a desperate need to prove themselves. He stomped back into the arena with his combat plating fully extended, all 4 arms flexed, his crest raised in a threat display. "This is ridiculous," he announced to the entire class. "So the human can jump high in low gravity. So what? Parlor tricks. I bet she cannot handle actual combat. She probably folds the second someone applies real pressure." Riley, who had been doing some kind of stretching routine in the corner, looked up with mild surprise. "I am not here to fight anyone," she said calmly. "This is just orientation day." "Scared?" Vex sneered. His translator gave it extra venom. Typical prey species behavior. All flash, no function. "Oh no. Oh no. No. I needed to shut this down immediately." "Cadet Vex, stand down," I ordered. "Cadet Chen is not cleared for combat exercises until she completes the full safety certification process." "I waive my safety protections," Vex declared, which was technically within his rights as a senior cadet. "Combat simulation. Standard rules. Non-lethal contact only. Unless the human is too fragile." He was baiting her. Badly. And I could see from Riley's expression that she knew it too. But there was something else in her eyes now. Something that made my secondary heart skip a beat. She looked tired. Not physically tired. Tired of this exact situation. "Fine," Riley said quietly. "1 round. Non-lethal. Standard rules." "Cadet Chen, you do not have to do this," I tried. But she was already walking toward the combat circle. "It is okay, Instructor Vorn," she said. "I have dealt with bullies before." The combat simulation arena rose from the floor. A circular platform 10 meters in diameter with impact-absorbing surfaces and force field boundaries. Vex stepped onto it with the confidence of someone who had won 43 consecutive matches. Riley stepped up on the opposite side, still wearing her hoodie and sneakers, looking like she had wandered in from a casual outing. The size difference was comical. Vex massed at least 200 kilograms of armored muscle across 4 powerful limbs. Riley maybe massed 60 kilograms soaking wet. He had natural weapons, armor plating, and 3 years of combat training. She had soft skin and a patient expression. "Combat simulation activated," the arena computer announced. "Non-lethal contact rules. Match ends on submission, ring out, or incapacitation. Fighters ready." Vex dropped into an aggressive stance. All 4 arms positioned for his signature grapple and crush technique. "Ready." Riley just stood there, hands at her sides, weight balanced. "Ready. Begin." Vex charged immediately, closing the distance with surprising speed for his size. His strategy was obvious. Overwhelm her with mass and strength. Grab her with all 4 arms and squeeze until she submitted. It had worked on every opponent he had ever faced. Riley did not move until he was 1 meter away. Then she shifted her weight, a tiny movement that seemed almost lazy, and Vex's grasping arms closed on empty air. She had slipped to his left, outside his attack range with such minimal effort that it looked accidental. "Stand still," he roared, launching a 4-armed tackle that should have been impossible to avoid in the confined space. Riley dropped low, impossibly low, her legs bending at angles that should not have been anatomically possible. Vex sailed over her, his momentum carrying him forward, and then, almost gently, Riley stood up directly in his path. The impact was not dramatic. There was no big hit, no devastating strike. Riley simply placed her palm against Vex's chest plate as he flew past and pushed. Just pushed. But the force behind that push, the casual application of Deathworld muscle that had been built to fight 1.0 G every single day, sent Vex flying backward like he had been hit by a cargo shuttle. He tumbled through the air, his arms pinwheeling uselessly, and crashed into the force field boundary hard enough to trigger the impact warnings. He hit the mat, stunned, and did not get up. "Combat complete," the arena computer announced. "Victory to Cadet Chen by incapacitation. Time elapsed, 4 seconds. 4 seconds. The fight had lasted 4 seconds. And Riley had only touched him once. She walked over to where Vex was lying, breathing hard and staring at the ceiling in shock. "You okay?" she asked, offering her hand to help him up. "I tried not to hit you too hard." Vex looked at her hand like it was a plasma weapon. He scrambled backward, got to his feet without her help, and stumbled out of the combat circle without making eye contact. Riley watched him go, confusion clear on her face. "Did I do something wrong?" Wrong? She had just casually dismantled our academy's top-ranked combat student using less effort than most species use to open doors. The medical team arrived within minutes, scanners out, checking Vex for structural damage, bruised pride, mostly, and a cracked secondary chest plate. Nothing permanent, but the look in his eyes, that 1,000-yard stare, that was going to last considerably longer. "She barely touched me," he kept mumbling to the medics. It felt like getting hit by a transport shuttle. "She barely touched me." I called an immediate staff meeting. Within the hour, every combat instructor at the academy was crammed into the conference room, all of us staring at the holographic display showing Earth's environmental data in terrifying detail. "Gravity 1.0, Assistant Instructor Threll read aloud. "Atmospheric pressure 1.0 standard. Average surface temperature swings of 30 to 40 degrees between seasons. Geological instability rating severe. Magnetic field fluctuation, moderate. Solar radiation, moderate. Predator saturation index, critical." "What does critical mean?" someone asked. "It means there are large carnivores on every continent," Threll said, her voice hollow. "Apex predators with no natural enemies except other apex predators and humans. And according to this, humans used to hunt them. For sport. With primitive weapons." The room went silent. "They have got toxic plants," another instructor added, scrolling through the biological data. "Venomous insects. Parasitic organisms. Bacterial and viral pathogens numbering in the thousands. And they developed complex civilization anyway." I pulled up the human evolutionary timeline. "They have been persistence hunters," I said slowly. "They would chase prey animals for hours, sometimes days, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Then they would move in for the kill. That is how they survived before they developed advanced tools." "Hours?" Threll whispered. "They can run for hours." Riley jogged 100 meters in 8 seconds and was not even breathing hard. I confirmed. "I do not think we have seen her upper limits. I do not think she has even tried yet." The head administrator, a Kelthian with 70 cycles of experience, made the call. "Full protocol revision. Human students are to be classified as high-risk specialists. New safety guidelines effective immediately. And someone, please make sure that girl understands she needs to hold back at least 90% in all training exercises." 90%? I asked. "Minimum," he said grimly. Word spread through the academy faster than a hull breach alarm. By the next morning, every single student knew about the human who had jumped 10 times her own height and defeated Vex in 4 seconds using one hand. The cafeteria went silent when Riley walked in for breakfast. Students literally moved their trays to different tables. She sat alone, looking confused and slightly hurt, until a brave Thrin named Kessa carefully approached and asked if she could sit down. "Of course," Riley said, brightening immediately. "I thought maybe I had done something to offend everyone yesterday." Kessa's translator struggled with the nervous chittering. "You terrified them, Cadet Chen, in the most respectful way possible. You are from a death world. A real, actual death world. Most of us come from garden worlds where the biggest threat is seasonal temperature variation." "Oh," Riley said, understanding dawning. "That is why everyone keeps staring. Look, I am not dangerous. I am just, a regular person from Earth. We are not all combat monsters or anything." But the thing is, she really believed that. That was what made it so unsettling. To Riley she was average, unremarkable, probably below average by Earth standards given that she was a university student and not a professional soldier or athlete. This was her baseline normal. Over the following weeks, something shifted. The fear did not disappear, but it transformed into respect. Riley never showed off, never used her abilities to intimidate. She helped struggling students with their exercises, always careful to demonstrate slowly and gently. She laughed at herself when she forgot to adjust for the low gravity and accidentally jumped onto the cafeteria roof, which happened twice. She became a legend, sure, but also something else. A reminder, a living, breathing lesson in humility. I watched her one afternoon, 17 days after her arrival, sitting in the observation dome with a group of younger cadets. They were asking her questions about Earth, and she was answering with that same casual, oblivious attitude. "So you really have storms that can level entire cities?" a young Grathian asked, mandibles clicking with anxiety. "Hurricanes. Yeah," Riley confirmed. "Category 5 hurricanes can have winds over 200 miles per hour. We just evacuate and rebuild afterward. It is part of life in coastal areas. And you said there are bears that weigh 600 kilograms. Polar bears can get that big, yeah. Grizzly bears too, but they mostly avoid humans unless you get between a mother and her cubs. Then you are in trouble." "What do you do if that happens?" Kessa asked. Riley thought about it. "Play dead probably. Or climb a tree if it is a grizzly." "Actually no, grizzlies can climb. Black bears you fight back. Grizzlies you play dead. Polar bears you just try not to be there in the first place." The cadet stared at her in horror. "Your species has specific behavioral protocols for different types of mega-predator encounters?" I asked, unable to help myself. "Well, yeah," Riley said. Like this was obvious. "We teach it to kids in school. Bear safety, shark safety, snake identification, tornado procedures, earthquake drills. Basic stuff. Basic stuff. Survival protocols that would fill a military manual were basic childhood education on Earth. I have been teaching for 17 cycles, and I thought I had seen everything. But Riley Chen taught me the most important lesson of my career. Never, ever judge a species by appearance. Never assume fragility means weakness, and never, ever underestimate what someone can do when they come from a world that has been trying to kill them since birth. Because if humans are what a Deathworld produces when it is just trying to make a normal civilian population, I genuinely do not want to know what their actual soldiers are capable of." Riley is still here, still training, still apologizing every time she accidentally breaks something or jumps too high or moves too fast, still completely oblivious to the fact that she has fundamentally changed how every species in this academy thinks about strength, survival, and the terrifying variety of life in our galaxy. And honestly, I would not have it any other way.